Welcome to Book Banter, classic and modern reads, where every page sparks a conversation. Here, we dive into timeless classics and today's best-selling novels, bringing thoughtful discussions, reviews, and reflections on the stories that shape us. Whether you're revisiting an old favorite or discovering a new book, we're here to explore the characters, themes, and timeless truths within every page. So, grab your favorite book, settle in, and don't forget to subscribe for more engaging conversations with us. Let's get started.
All right, so listen to this. We're diving deep into To Kill a Mockingbird. But get this, you're not here just to rehash the courtroom drama.
Yeah.
No, you want to really unpack Maycomb itself. See how this town, how it brings the whole story to life.
What I find fascinating is how Maycomb, it becomes its own force. You know, it's not just a backdrop. It shapes everyone in it, but then they shape it right back. It's this whole ecosystem.
And trust me, our listeners, they get it. So many want to crack open the world of Maycomb, go beyond the trial, go deeper than the characters we think we know.
Yeah, it's like stepping right into the South in the 1930s. You've got that Depression-era anxiety, Jim Crow. It's all there, simmering under the surface of everyday life.
Oh, it's palpable, right? That stifling Alabama heat that Lee writes about. It's like it slows everything down. Makes you wonder, does time even move the same way in Maycomb?
That's the point, though. Those long, hot summer days, they're like a mirror to the novel's conflicts. Everything's slow burning, prejudices simmer, tensions rise, and it all builds to that explosion during the trial.
Right. Okay, but here's where it gets good. Maycomb. It wasn't always going to be this isolated pressure cooker, you know. We've got good old Sinkfield to thank for that. Remember him?
Oh yeah, the man was obsessed with having the county seat. Practically redrew the map himself. And get this, he bribed the surveyors to make it happen with moonshine, 5 quarts of it.
5 quarts? Wow. Talk about ambition, right? But it's ironic, isn't it? Sinkfield drags Maycomb into what he thinks is civilization, but what does he do? Traps the town in amber, cuts it off, leaves it clinging to tradition.
Exactly. Isolation breeds insularity, and Maycomb's a perfect example. Values harden, get passed down like family silver. Nobody wants to change. Nobody wants outside ideas. Progress, or in a place like that, forget it, it's an uphill battle.
But that's what's crazy. You've got this sleepy town stuck in its ways, but then bam, it's the county seat too. So now you've got Atticus, you've got doctors, shopkeepers, even a court reporter, all in this one dusty little town.
And let's not forget, people travel for miles to get to Maycomb, to get their teeth pulled, their souls saved, their legal battles fought. It's like the hub, right? This web, and life just pulses out from it in every direction.
It's all connected. The dependence, the gossip, all that shared history makes you think, can anyone ever really escape Maycomb's pull once they're caught in it? And speaking of pull, let's talk social hierarchy. Because Maycomb, it's a tangled web, and it goes way beyond just rich versus poor.
Even Scout, bless her heart, she figures that out. She realizes, it's not just about tracing your family back to the first settlers. There's more to it than that. It's about education. It's about whether your family values books, knowledge.
Like the Finches, right. They've got old money, sure. But their respect, it goes deeper. Atticus, he's admired not because of his family name, but because he's a good man. He's got integrity, intelligence. He's involved in the community.
See, but here's where things get really interesting. Atticus, this pillar of Maycomb society, what does he do? He chooses to defend Tom Robinson. And this is the Jim Crow South, right? This wasn't just a legal decision. This was like a social earthquake.
Oh, totally. The Finches, they're walking a tightrope. They embody Maycomb's traditions, but then they go and challenge the very foundation of how that society works. Makes you wonder, can you really be a part of something when you're actively trying to change its core beliefs?
And what about how that decision affects their standing, right? Defending Tom, did it lift them up in some people's eyes, but then isolate them from others? Lee, she makes us think about that.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Atticus makes one decision, and boom, shockwaves through this delicate ecosystem. And then you've got the Cunninghams, just trying to stay afloat during the Depression. These are poor farmers, barely scraping by.
But so independent. Remember, they'd rather pay their debts with hickory nuts and turnip greens than take charity. That says a lot about their character, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's like their pride, their self-reliance, that's their armor. Protects them from just how crushing poverty can be. You know, that scene with Walter Cunningham Jr. at Scout School always gets me. He pours syrup all over his food, right? It's such a small thing, but it shows this gap, this cultural difference. It's way deeper than just, they have money, we don't.
Exactly. That one scene shows us those unwritten rules in Maycomb. The food, the manners, who gets an education, who doesn't. It's all about where you belong. Or maybe more importantly, where you don't belong.
And then, at the very bottom, you've got the Yules, stuck in poverty, fueled by ignorance and prejudice. It's like they're everything Maycomb considers bad, all wrapped up in one family. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Are they just bad seeds? Or are they a product of a system that's designed to chew them up and spit them out?
Now that's the question that haunts Maycomb, doesn't it? Remember, the Yules, they live by the town dump, their house. It's described as if a kid built it out of trash. Lee gives us this vivid picture how they live. That's how Maycomb deals with poverty. Sweep it under the rug, try to ignore it, let it fester way out on the edge of town when nobody has to look at it.
And then the trial, with Tom Robinson at the center. It's like this lightning rod, right? All those unspoken tensions, all those social lines, suddenly they're impossible to ignore.
Oh, absolutely. The trial is like this crucible. And all of Maycomb's prejudices, its hypocrisies, they're on full display. Even the people who are supposed to be delivering justice, who are supposed to see past prejudice, they're products of this environment, too.
It's scary, isn't it, to think about how deep those systems of oppression run. We can think we're being objective, but our upbringing, our community, our biases, they all leave their mark.
Speaking of individuals marked by their environment, we can't forget about Boo Radley, can we? A figure shrouded in whispers and shaped by Maycomb's own fears.
Boo Radley. He's like this mystery, right?
Huh.
Wrapped in an enigma, hidden away in that creepy old house on the edge of town. You can practically feel Maycomb holding its breath every time his name comes up.
Oh, absolutely. He becomes this symbol of all their fears, doesn't he? Every whispered rumor, every crazy story just adds another layer to this myth. And that myth, it keeps Boo isolated, unknowable.
And the kids, Scout, Jem, Dill, they eat it up. Remember how they used to stand in the street and dare each other to even look at the Radley house?
Right, but what's so interesting is how their view of Boo changes. At first, he's like a monster under the bed, some phantom hiding in the shadows. But as they grow up, as they start to question the stories Maycomb's been feeding them, their fear, it becomes something else.
Curiosity, maybe? Or even empathy. Remember, they start leaving those little gifts in the knothole of that tree. It's almost like they're trying to reach out to him, break through that wall of fear that the town built.
And let's not forget Miss Maudie. She gives us that crucial look into Boo's past. Explains how he was raised with this incredibly strict, almost suffocating religious upbringing.
Yeah, that whole thing about the foot-washing Baptists, how any kind of pleasure was a sin. It makes you realize Boo becoming a recluse, it wasn't just a personal choice, it was almost inevitable in a way.
Yeah.
Shaped by his family, by what the community expected of him.
He becomes a prisoner, right. Not just of his own home, but of Maycomb's collective imagination. Which begs the question, could Boo Radley ever have had a good life in a place like Maycomb, even if his family hadn't been, the way they were?
It's like Maycomb itself is allergic to anything different, anything that makes them question their worldview. It's got to be so frustrating.
And the saddest part, by the end of the book, we see who Boo really is. He's capable of incredible empathy, of selfless acts, heroism even.
Talk about a twist. He goes from the monster in the shadows to the one who literally saves those kids from getting hurt. What a moment.
It makes you wonder, is there hope for Boo after everything that happened? Can Maycomb learn to see him not as this scary figure, but as a person, someone who deserves compassion, understanding?
Oh man, it's such a powerful question. It leaves you with this unsettled feeling. It's like Harper Lee saying, okay, you've seen what could be, now what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. And that's the genius of To Kill a Mockingbird, isn't it? It's not a simple story. It stays with you, makes you think, forces you to confront these hard truths about yourself, about the world.
But it's like Maycomb is this distorted mirror, and we're seeing these warped versions of our own prejudices, our fear of the unknown. It makes you ask yourself, am I the gossipy neighbor? Am I the one judging everyone? Or am I the one who's brave enough to be kind, to offer understanding instead of fear?
Because here's the thing, Maycomb isn't unique. It's not just some small town in 1930s Alabama. It represents the human experience. We all live in our own versions of Maycomb, surrounded by these social rules, expectations, and yeah, prejudices too, some obvious, some not.
It's in our workplaces, our families, our friends. It's everywhere, isn't it? Those moments when you catch yourself making assumptions about someone because of their background, what they believe, even how they dress.
Exactly. And To Kill a Mockingbird, it's like it holds up this mirror and asks, are we part of the problem? Are we spreading those harmful stories? Creating a culture that silences people, isolates them, lets fear and ignorance win.
Wow. So this isn't just about analyzing a book, is it? It's a call to action. It's about doing better.
100%. Because we have a choice. We can sit back and watch these systems of oppression keep going, or we can choose to do something about it, to make a change.
We can be the Atticus Finches of our own worlds, right? Standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it means going against the crowd.
And sometimes being brave is as simple as questioning your own biases, challenging stereotypes, offering friendship to someone outside your usual circle.
It's like that moment when Scout talks to Mr. Cunningham outside the jail. She just talks to him like he's a human being, and it's enough to break through that prejudice for a minute.
Yes. And that's what Harper Lee wants us to understand. It's not always about these huge gestures or changing the whole system. Those things are important. But it's also about the small, everyday things, the courage, the empathy, the understanding. Over time, those small acts, they can break down those systems of oppression from the inside out.
You know, when I think about Maycomb, one thing that really gets me is how Harper Lee uses the Depression. All that economic fear and anxiety, it's like it just makes those social divides even worse.
It's true. It's like that saying, when the tide goes out, you see who's been swimming naked. Maycomb's really wrestling with all these issues, right? And then boom, economic hardship hits. People get desperate. They cling even tighter to what little they have left, even if it's just their place in the hierarchy, you know?
And those at the bottom, they get hit the hardest. It's like that thing Atticus says about the Cunninghams, how they're this close to losing their farm because of those awful bank mortgages.
And Lee makes it clear, this isn't just about bad luck. The system is rigged against them, designed to keep them down. It's almost like it preys on their desperation, you know?
Which makes the fact that they insist on paying back their debts, even with just hickory nuts and whatever they can scrounge up,
Yeah.
well, it makes it even more powerful.
It really does. It shows their character. They might not have much, but they won't compromise their values. They've got this moral code, and they cling to it, even when giving up would be easier.
It's like their pride, their self-reliance, it becomes a shield against all that hardship. And, you know, it's not just the Cunninghams who are feeling the pressure. Even Atticus, he's a well-respected lawyer, but he's not immune to Maycomb's economic woes.
That's such a good point. Lee shows us how even Atticus gets paid back in firewood and other goods for his work. It's subtle, but it emphasizes how connected the Finches are to their community struggles. Even with their social standing, they're not above it all.
And we see that interconnectedness in other ways, too, like when Reverend Sykes, he takes up that collection for Helen Robinson after Tom dies. It's a small thing, but it speaks volumes.
Oh, for sure. It shows that even with all its flaws, this community, they try to take care of their own. But then you can't ignore the irony. Here's Helen, a hardworking woman struggling to find work because of her last name, because of her race.
It's heartbreaking, really. Maycomb tries to help in its own way. But all those deep-seated prejudices, they just hold people back. It makes you think, even when people have good intentions, those good deeds, they can't always fix the real systemic problems.
Exactly. It's not enough to just say, oh, that's awful. We have to be willing to dismantle the systems that create those inequalities in the first place.
So where does that leave us then? What have we learned from this deep dive into Maycomb, a town that's both charming and, well, pretty ugly at times?
I think it reminds us that we can never stop questioning the world around us. Maycomb, with all its complexities, forces us to look at the uncomfortable truths that exist everywhere, even in our own communities, even in our own hearts.
It's a call to action, isn't it? To look beyond those carefully constructed facades, to challenge our own biases, and to remember that change, real lasting change, it takes more than just good intentions.
It does. It takes courage, empathy, and a willingness to do what's right, even when it's hard, even when it makes us uncomfortable. It's like Atticus tells Scout, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Only then can we really start to break down those walls of prejudice and build a world where everyone has a chance to breathe free.
Wow, what a powerful thought. Maycomb might just be a fictional town, but it's a powerful reflection of ourselves. The choices we make, they matter. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the heart of Maycomb. We hope you'll take these lessons to heart as we all work towards a more just and compassionate world.
Thanks for joining us on Book Banter, Classic and Modern Reads. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you love this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into both classic literature and today's must-read books. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what book you'd love to see next. We release new episodes every week, so stay tuned for more. Until next time, happy reading.